What's up, everybody? It's Walter, your favorite historian and professor. Today's date is May 1st, 2026. Here to give you some proper insight on Louisiana versus Calais. In this case, of course, the Supreme Court of the United States has effectively eviscerated, damn near beheaded, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 by rendering Section 2 almost powerless. Based on the decision in Louisiana versus Calais, outside of being able to prove that a legislative body had the intent to discriminate based on race or is physically stopping you from casting a ballot, you are effectively screwed in attempting to pursue a Section 2 claim of racial discrimination in your ability to vote and having a meaningful vote. This decision represents the culmination of decades of hard work by conservatives to destroy the Voting Rights Act of 1965, one of the most powerful federal civil rights laws ever enacted. It was enacted in 1965 for the purpose of ensuring that racial minorities had the unabridged right to vote in the United States, free from any interference by the states, and to ensure not only that you had the right to vote, but that your vote would actually have a real meaningful purpose. And what we saw in Louisiana versus Calais, quite simply, was the Supreme Court eroding away that second part for your vote to be meaningful in creating a second black congressional district there. White conservatives in the state essentially declared war on a long-established principle with the Voting Rights Act that minority voting power needed to be meaningful, not just in existence, okay? And so from that, we see that Section 2 now has very little force. Justice Elena Kagan, in her 50-page dissenting opinion, wrote that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, and essentially much of the rest of the law, all right, is now essentially dead letter. Because do you know how difficult, next to impossible, it is to prove that the legislative body had the intent to discriminate? I mean, think about it for a second. Unless somebody just haphazardly left a memo on the floor or left an old TikTok video or a post on X that, you know, they didn't mean to post, but that we had the intent to discriminate based on race. Good luck proving that. It's a damn near impossible mountain to scale, okay? And so, again, it is the culmination of decades worth of work by conservatives to limit the force of the Voting Rights Act as much as humanly possible. Yes, the law is still on the books, but for all intents and purposes now, it is a toothless tiger. A tiger that has had all of its teeth and claws removed because of how limited its force is now. Outside of being able to actually prove that the legislature had the intent to discriminate based on race, or they're physically stopping you from casting a ballot, you're screwed, okay? As far as the conservatives are concerned, as long as you have the legal ability to go in a ballot box and cast a ballot, then your right to vote is all that's required, okay, to satisfy the Voting Rights Act. Anything further is just an unconstitutional infringement on the rights of states and is obviously well beyond anything that they're willing to tolerate, okay? We saw it in Shelby County versus Holder in 2013, Brnovich versus Democratic National Committee in 2021, and now Louisiana versus Calais in 2026. Nobody was surprised by this decision whatsoever, okay? It wasn't a matter of if, but when, okay? And like all things, satisfaction with this lies with just one segment of the population. But this isn't final, all right? The people have every ability to change this through Congress, all right? And effectively amending the Voting Rights Act to undermine this decision as much as possible. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on them, so leave them in the comments down below, and I'll be happy to engage in discussion. And I make this video as someone who's been studying law and history for well over 2 decades now, and I can honestly say that Louisiana v. Calais is one of the worst decisions ever rendered by the U.S. Supreme Court. Take care of yourself, stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you at the next video. Professor Shelton, the blue-collar scholar and historian, out. Peace.